Good evening, class of retards. Today what we will be discussing is the lifting fundamentals for size, as presented by me, or as you know me, Miggy, I guess. This is like a very broad overview. It's just some shit to consider while you guys are starting out on your whole lifting journey bullshit. Again, we're just going to go over the fundamentals so you guys get a broad idea of how you should be training or what to incorporate in your training. These are not hard guidelines you have to follow to a T. They're just good general outlines, okay? Alright, so I have broken this up into 3 primary categories, which is frequency, volume, and technique. There's no real reason technique is so small. I wrote small. But anyways, frequency, meaning how often do you train? So if you're working hard and directly training a muscle group at the intensity that you should be training it at, the answer is it depends. But for most people, 2 to 4 times a week is optimal. That's enough time for your muscle to recharge and recover, as well as your nervous system. And it depends. So like bigger muscles like chest, legs, specifically your quads and your hamstrings, your back, your glutes, those really big muscle groups, probably 2 to 3 times a week is good because they're big. They're going to do exercises that use more weight, so they're going to be harder to recover. They take more damage basically because they're bigger muscle groups. So we want to reserve that to 2 to 3 times. This is, again, if you want to be optimal. You can still grow and get bigger if you do all this shit once a week. Like, you will be fine as long as you're training hard. You just don't need to fucking do it like 5 times a week. That's overkill, or you're just not working very hard on each workout. But for smaller muscle groups like your triceps, your biceps, all 3 heads of your shoulders, your calves. We all have small calves. I don't even know if you people fucking train your forearms directly, but if you do, forearms, all that shit, that is horrible spelling. All that shit you can do pretty often because it's a smaller muscle group, it takes less damage, and you indirectly train them by working out these other body parts. So like every back movement you do, because it's a lot of like pulling and shit, that's working your forearms. Every chest movement you do, because it's pressing, you're going to work the front part of your delt. So you will get a lot of indirect training anyways, which you can count into this. So that stuff you can do 3 to 4 times a week, but you're kind of getting like 1 or 1.5 workouts for those muscles anyways by doing other exercises. But something like your calves, you don't really use them in a lot of other exercises, like when you squat or deadlift or whatever. That doesn't really activate your calves at all. You're not really like fully lengthening and contracting them, which is like stretching and flexing, which we'll get to later. Anyways, 2 to 4 times a week is optimal. Obviously, that's assuming you're getting decent sleep, eating adequate, not just protein, but yes, protein is very important, but calories in general, etc., etc. Unless you're trying to lose weight, then yeah, you got to cut your calories back a little bit. But yeah, we're looking to do 2 to 4 times a week. Overall, you can be in the gym. You technically can do once or twice a week and still grow, but if we're looking for the best results, most people will do best with 4 to 6 sessions per week. That's not to say if you do like 2 or 3, not bad, but it does not mean it's optimal. Okay? So you might get like 85% of the results that you would get if you were doing optimally 4 to 6 sessions, but that's not bad by any means. Okay, so we know frequency. We know we need to be in the gym X amount of time, right? Volume, what does that mean? Is that how loud you listen to music or whatever the fuck you listen to? No, you stupid fucking idiot. No, it means volume means your reps, your sets, and your time span, like in what time span you do that stuff. So, volume, you add up all your reps, your sets, you multiply them, you consider how much work am I putting my body or specifically this muscle group that I'm targeting through. So, it depends, again, per muscle group. So, I found for hypertrophy, and I'm going to keep it, which is like building muscle versus like strength training, which is like I just want to increase my max lifts, which again, they're somewhat similar in terms of training. Like you're doing the same stuff, but how you do it is a little bit different. So again, your volume matters a fuckload. This is like one of the biggest, I'll circle it, determining factors in your results when it comes to building muscle. So yeah, so for big muscle groups like the ones we listed here, again, they vary, but things like your chest is a good example. When you see a dude with a big chest, you assume he's got a big bench press, right? If you see a guy with big biceps, do you assume, oh, he must curl like 300 pounds? No, you just assume he does a fuckload of curls, right? There's kind of a reason why something like your chest responds really well to heavy training. So something like the 5 to 12 reps, that's ideal. We like that a lot, all right? Something like your quads, your legs, like this part of your leg, the front part of your leg, the thing that gets engaged a lot when you're walking. It varies. So I would say anywhere from like 6 to 15 reps. It's because you use that every single step you take. So as you can see, there's a little bit of difference here. Something small, like your biceps, you know, again, you're probably going to be on the higher end. So like, I would say 8 to 15 reps. And this is not total reps. This is per set. So you see this and you think, oh, okay, geez, that's kind of like a big variation, don't you think? That's what's great. Maybe you start at the higher end of that. You know, your first week 1 of training, you're like, I'm going to do a couple sets of 12, blah, blah, blah. Then week 2, I'll do sets of 10. I'll go up a little bit of weight. That's a great plan. You can do that. Or if you can, be really conservative and be like, I'm going to do 8 reps every set for however many weeks straight. I'll just increase weight over time. Okay? Another great approach. You can just, as long as you are progressing. So I guess I should progression. I'm going to add another little thing. We're going to call this overload, but I'll explain that more later. Okay. Anyway, back to volume. So we know we need to stay in like a moderate rep range, anywhere from like the high single digits to like the mid double digits or like mid teens. All right, that's a good rule of thumb. We don't have to go into every muscle group, but there is some variation. Okay, something like a hamstring. This one, you don't use this muscle a ton, but when you do, it's usually like you're picking shit up, right? You pick a box up off the ground. Okay, so typically that's like high force put output. You need to lift something heavy. There's a reason your deadlift is your heaviest lift. So something like your hamstrings. That one probably going to be on the lower end. Something like 6 to 10 reps. So you notice variation like I said. Now we're going to go to sets. How many sets am I supposed to do? Well, again, it depends on your frequency. So if you train once a week, you could have some fucking monster long workouts with like 20 sets for each body part because you're going to have a whole week to recover. Whereas if you do it twice a week, okay, if I want to do 20 sets in a week, I'll do 10 this day and 10 this day, right? That way I have half as much time to recover, but I have half as much work to recover from, right? So that makes sense. Typically, you'll see anywhere between I would say 12 to 20 sets. But for you guys, I want you to pick something closer to the lower end because you're all fairly new. And because the weights will be pretty light, you'll be able to recover, but I just want you to get in the habit of it more instead of focusing on this has to be perfectly optimized for hypertrophy. Just focus on maintaining a consistent habit of going to the gym. So if you want to stick to that 12, 14, 16 sets, that's fine. So what might that look like? Let's say I want to do chest, right? I want to do chest Monday, and Thursday. And I want to do 16 sets for the whole week, right? Every week I'm going to chain my chest for 16 sets. So Monday, I might bench, press, okay? We know we want to stay in that 5 to 12 rep range, and we know we want to get 16 sets. So that's 8 sets per workout. So maybe I'll pick bench press. I'll do, I don't know, 4 sets of 6, right? Nice and heavy to start. Then I'll go incline, dumbbell bench. We'll go another 4 sets. Let's say we'll go 10 this time, get more of a pump going. So Thursday, because we have 3 days to recover now, we should be good to go because we only did 8 sets. We didn't do 20 and go way overboard, so we don't need a whole week to recover. Thursday, I want to work out my chest again, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. Not totally different, because we want to train the same movement patterns, and we don't want to use every exercise in the world in 1 week. So we'll go bench again. But this time, instead of doing 4x6 and trying to repeat the same exact workout, maybe we'll go 5 sets of 8, right? So 4 plus 4 plus 5. We're at 13 sets. And our goal is 16, so we only need to do 3 sets of whatever the next chest exercise is, right? So let's say you want to do, I don't know, you can do chest flies or incline flies, yeah. 3 sets of 12. See, look, we've gotten on the lower end with the 6s, we've gotten on the higher ends with the 10s and 12s, and in the middle of that with the 8s. So all of this is in the appropriate ranges, and we're doing it, it's a big muscle group, so we're doing it twice a week like we were recommended, right? And we're getting adequate time to recover, all right? Time span, really simple, it just means how much time are you allotting to fit all this in. So if you're like, I'm gonna do my 20 sets for this amount of time, and I'm gonna get in this rep range, just like Michael said, and I'm gonna get 3 workouts in, right? But I'm gonna do it over the course of 5 days. That's not a ton of time to recover. Your volume might be the same as the guy who does it in a week span, but you condensed it so much. Like I'm gonna do it Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. That's 4 days, right? Because Tuesday's in the middle of that. But you train 3 of them. That's not a ton of time to recover. You're not giving yourself the appropriate time span. You wanna spread out these workouts, especially if it's a big muscle group, you wanna give yourself time to recover. A little muscle group, if you're sore and you wanna work out anyways, you'll probably be fine because it's a little muscle group. But if your quads are fucked up and you try to squat a day later, it's going to be a lot harder. You have to lighten the load, and you won't get the same amount of stimulus or work that you would have gotten if you were appropriately recovered with another days of rest or something like that. Okay? So technique. This is important. I'm going to teach you some terms. Concentric, which means up, when you are lifting the weight up. So when you're doing a curl, it's going this way. When you're doing a bench, it's pressing it away from you. So when you're doing a squat, it's when you stand up, When you deadlift, it's when you actually pick up the bar. Got it? You're basically it's the first half of the movement for some exercises. I don't want to say that because technically it's the second half of a bench press, but you get the idea. It's when you're putting the bar or weight or whatever it is in place of where you want it to be. That's the concentric. Then there's the eccentric, which means fighting on the way down. So if you have a weight on your curl, let's say you have a dumbbell and you're doing a curl, it's the way down. The bench, it's the bar coming down. The squat, it's you descending. You get the idea. On a row, right? You're bent over. It's the way down. You're fighting against gravity, basically. And when you do that, the timing is important. So we're going to say down. All right? The timing is important. So you're concentric. You want to tighten or flex your muscle when you do it. So on a bench, you're trying to press away from you. You're trying to accelerate the bar, the dumbbell, the machine, whatever it is. So we're looking for about 1 second. If you take longer than that, that's totally fine. It just means you're working hard and you're getting tired. So if you're doing a bench and you're like slowly coming up on your last rep or two, that's fine. That doesn't mean they're shitty reps. All right. The eccentric, the way down, this is where we want to control the weight because this is where a lot of the growth comes from. All right. So you're looking for like maybe like a 2-second negative. So if I'm doing a curl, so I'm gonna go 1, like half-second pause, and then 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. Make sense? So about a 2-second, and you're gonna realize doing the fucking slow eccentric instead of like fast as possible. That shit is fucking hard. It makes weights feel much heavier than they actually are. That's good. Building muscle is not about lifting the most weight possible. Building muscle is about taking a weight, making it as hard as possible, so your muscles have to adapt to that challenge, not to whatever weight you could throw on. Yeah, you can get bigger by just like bouncing the bar off your chest on a bench press or like violently like curling and then just letting it come straight down. You will grow, but we're talking about what's optimal, what's most safe, and what gives the best results for most people. Because again, some people, like when they ego lift, that works best for them. I don't know why. It's a small minority of people, but it just does. But most people, you're gonna want to actually have that 1 second up, 2 seconds down on whatever exercise it is. Okay? Now, that's not absolute. So if you're deadlifting and it's like 300 pounds, yeah, it's hard to go down with 300 pounds slowly, but that's the point. It's supposed to be hard. It's working out. Okay, and we're going to talk about range of motion. What does that mean? ROM. Range of motion means the range in which whatever joints you're moving or weight you're moving travels. We want to train with full range of motion, which means if you're on a bench, right? You're incline benching. When the weight comes down, you don't stop here because you're at 90 degrees. That is not full range of motion. That is partial range of motion. You want to get a nice deep stretch and let that bar touch your chest. Open your rib cage up. Pull your shoulder blades back. Let your elbows come behind you. That's a deep stretch in your chest. It's going to be way fucking harder. Like I said, we want it to be challenging. Not challenging like standing on a fucking Bosu ball or some shit like that challenging, but you know, we're actually lifting the weights challenging. Full range of motion. So you get a nice deep stretch for that 2 seconds on the way down. Half pause, like pause just for not even a full second, just a half a second. And then you come up and you want to go all the way up and contract. You want to feel like if someone were to poke your chest at the top of a bench press, yeah, your chest is flexed. Why? Because you've contracted the muscles. You've taken your insertion point, no, this is your origin point of your muscle, and your insertion point, they're as far apart from each other as you can be at the bottom, and then as close as they can be at the top, right? Notice how your chest close together, far apart. Close together, far apart. You want to open and close the muscles, essentially. That's why your quads start origin point here, insertion point here, right? Big fucking muscle, like I said. So when you squat down and your hips come back, your knees come forward, look, that's a deep fucking stretch. And I come up, this is when it's shortest. And at the bottom, that's when it's longest. So we want to look for a full range of motion. Stretch, which is the eccentric. And the concentric is the flex. You need both of those in order to grow. Do not do partial range of motion. I don't fucking care if that's what you're used to. That's fucking retarded, all right? I would much rather you bench 80 pounds doing full reps with good tempo and technique than see you do like 100 pounds, but it looks like dog shit and you only go halfway down. So we do not cheat reps, okay? Technique. Almost as important as the actual workload you're doing, okay? Last one, progression. Very simple. Training over time should get harder. Overload just means you're overloading the muscle. Your muscle needs to adapt. And by it needing to adapt, it'll grow. That's what it means. So it just means gets harder over time. Like me and many in appropriate circumstances. Okay, so how can we make training harder? Well, we could add volume. Maybe last week you did, 4 sets of 6 on squats, right? This week you're going to do 5 sets of 6. That's an option, but are you going to do that every single week until you get to 20 sets of 6? You want to do 20 sets of squats? No. We have our limits, remember? We don't want to go past that 20 sets a week. And if you did 20 sets of squats in one workout, you would be fucking annihilated. That or you're doing pussy ass fucking weight. So we could add volume to a point. We could add weight. Maybe for your pull-ups last week or your assisted pull-ups, you had 40 pounds of your body weight taken off, right? Well, this week you're only going to take 30 pounds of your body weight taken off when you do assisted pull-ups. Or on the maybe a better thing to use, comparison, because nobody does assisted pull-ups really. The lat pull-down, right? You put 60 on the stack last week. This week you're going to put 70 on the stack or something, or 75, whatever, however much it goes up. And if you did 5 sets of 5 then, you could do 5 sets of 5 again, but you'll do more weight. Somehow it needs to get harder, okay? How else can we change it? More reps. Which does fall into the volume category, but I only said sets. So if last week you did bench press, 80 pounds, 4 sets of 6, right? This week, you can do your 4 sets of 6 again, but instead of doing 80 pounds, let's say 85 pounds, something like that, right? Or, alternatively, you can say, I'll go up weight, but I'll go down a rep. So instead of 4 sets of 6, you'll do 4 sets of 5, and instead of 80 pounds, you'll do 90 pounds. Make sense? Somehow it needs to get harder, but it needs to be doable. More reps. What else? You can change the frequency. Which, by changing the frequency, you probably will change the volume, but if you did 2 chest workouts last week, and they were super hard, right? You could do 2 really hard ones and then add in just 4 moderately challenging sets on another day just to get in some extra volume and extra frequency. But just keep in mind, it's going to delay recovery even more. So this is the one you can probably mess with the least, but those first 3 are a great idea. Mess with those, increase those, progress on those. So you guys are pretty new, so deloading, taking a rest week isn't really a thing on your minds probably, but I would say every 6 to 8 weeks for you guys, take off maybe half the volume. If you normally do, 6 sets of squats on Monday and 6 sets of squats on Thursday, do 3 sets on Monday and 3 sets on Thursday for 1 week. Just cut all your work in half, or take all your numbers, you normally do 80 pounds, do 60 pounds. Take off 25% or something like that. Just take it easy. Your body will recover. You'll be ready. You'll be wanting to train more. And then you can start at this lower end of the volume. So you start at 12 sets per week. And then by week 8, you can build your way up to 16, 17, 18 sets per week, you know? Those are the fundamentals. This went on longer than I wanted, but it's important you guys know this stuff. And again, like I said, you don't need to follow all this stuff perfectly, but I think they are very good guidelines for you guys to follow, or at least keep in mind. So if you already have a program and it's working well for you, you don't need to pay attention to any of this other than just, keep in mind your technique. How fast you're lifting the weights, making sure you're doing a full range of motion, stuff like that. If you just kind of go in the gym and wing it and you want something to kind of structure a program around, just keep this stuff in mind. Or if you have a program and you're I don't know if this is shitty, I don't know if this is good, if it adheres to most of these rules, if it ticks a lot of these boxes, then you're good. Okay? That's all I got. You guys are fucking retarded. Ugh.